If everyone would please come to order, we will begin this May meeting of the Trousdale County Planning Commission. We'll begin with roll call. Mary Ann.
Mary Ann Baker's here. Sarah Murray. John Kerr.
Here.
Rhonda Kiesling. David Nallner.
Here.
David Thomas.
Here.
Carol Pruitt. Mark Swaffer.
Here.
Thomas Harper.
Here.
Sam Edwards.
Here.
Just have one absent.
Okay. Got a good crowd. Got a good crowd here tonight. So that's good. First, we will see if there any changes or additions to our agenda. Do you know of anything, Sam? Or? Okay. We'll move back up to our minutes, approval of our minutes. Everyone had that email to them several weeks ago. Have plenty of time to read them. Are there any additions or corrections that anyone has seen in the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve April's minutes? Motion by Mr. Nallner. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Harper. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. April's minutes are approved. We'll now get into our old business. First is a request by staff to amend the Trousdale County zoning resolution, section 5.041D, to add mining activities and related services as a special exception. We've been working on this for several months, as we all know, and there may be some in the auditorium that don't know, but what we're trying to do is find a place to add this kind of zoning in order to be able to manage any additions to things like rock quarries or any things like that might want to come into our county. This gives us a chance where we can manage this from the beginning. I believe, do we have a copy of that in our? Yeah. Everyone should have a copy of this. I looked at it. Sam, do you have any comments you'd like to make on this?
Okay, so with thorough review over this, GNRC did an excellent job on creating this ordinance for us. Speaking of GNRC, there are a few punctuation errors we're going to fix, but we will have it fixed tomorrow. If you turn to page, let's see, I can show you on page 7 and 8 if you don't have your copy that was sent out, but there's some changes that I'm recommending that we approve. Basically, it's the exact same thing that's on 7 and 8. We're just adding a definition for operations. So it defines what is the operation, and I provided y'all with copies of those changes. The landscape buffer, we're moving from page 8 to page 7 so that it's right there in the front end of the meat, so that it's well defined on the front. So you'll have definitions, you have the operation paragraph there, and then you have landscape buffers. And if you look at the landscape buffers, it just defines further. There's a little blip added at the front, says no part of the operations other than the ingress and egress to the property shall be conducted within 100 feet of any boundary of the property. Basically, that says that if the property that they're wanting to use tapers where it hits the road, they can still get a road out. We're not stopping that. The other way, it would limit them. They would have to have that barrier on both sides all the way to the street. So this allows them to get a road out if they find a property that's usable. If you look at the setbacks, we marked the setbacks off because with the landscape buffer, it's doing that already. It's providing that 100-foot buffer from the property line. And if you look down, plus the understanding of this definition that was on setbacks, that could also mean that road going out. And we don't want to limit the access to the road. The perimeter of the operations shall comply with the following setback standards. I'm recommending that we use the A1 and M2, make them identical for the 250 feet from the property line. And on the offsite structures, 500 on both. There's very few agriculture properties in Travis County that would make the 1,000-foot even feasible. And we're not wanting to tell them no, we're just wanting to limit. So if we go with 1,000-foot, that's a flat out no, period, in this county. So we don't want to stop it here, we just want to limit it. So I'm recommending we put 250 and 500 for both of those. The page 2 of the changes that I sent you, it just shows that the landscape buffer is marked out because that was moved to the front page.
Anybody have any questions for Sam? Okay, while you're looking at that, we'll go to Jessica. If you haven't met Jessica, she's filling in. For the lady that's going to be our replacement for Mary, and we're happy to have her with us tonight. Jessica, would you like to make any comments on this?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I think Sam covered most of the changes, but excuse me. Section 1, if you go back to page 3 of the staff report, that adds the definition for mining activities to the zoning ordinance. Section 2 adds the definition for mining activities and related services to the agricultural forestry district, the A1 district. Section 3 on page 5 adds the mining activities and related services to the M2 intermediate impact industrial district. And then section 4, the pages that Sam covered, 7 and 8, everything that is in highlight are the additions to better define the mining activities and related services. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Jessica? Okay, as I've said, we've been talking about this now since the first of the year, if not longer. Discussion, questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, because it's, we run up against this quite often. Is this something that we approve and goes to the county commission, or the county commission's out on this one?
Well, no, only the county commission can make changes to the zoning regulations.
Okay.
So what we would act as our advising body, we would, if we pass this, then it would go to the county commission for, how many readings is it? 2 or 3? 2 with a public hearing, Mayor?
Yeah, it'll be 2 readings. 3 is only required for changes to the charter, taxation, those
Okay.
others. So it'd be 2, like you said, public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So again, only the county commission can make those changes legal or put them in place. We advise and consent. We're like the Senate. Other questions? Comments? Okay. Yes, sir.
Sam, I understand the reasoning for the change from the 1,000 foot in the A1 to the 500. So is that just is that your same reasoning for making it the same, the 250 instead of the 500 in the A1 from the property line?
I believe we should match both of them. It just makes it smoother. From any property line is the 250. They have the 100-foot vegetation buffer that they're going to have. And with these operations, they're going to have to build a berm around the entire property anyways on the outside. That way it directs the noise up instead of out. So with a 100-foot buffer and the berm, I think 250 is reasonable. And then all of this has to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they'll have to look at the site plan at what they're proposing anyways. So I think the 250 on both zoning districts, we really don't have a whole lot of M2 anyways. So if this is going to happen, it's going to happen in agriculture. And if we do those higher limits that are listed on here, it's just not going to happen.
So then my other question would be on that berm. So you've got we've got the 250 foot. So is that the 100 plus the berm, or is that 250 and then the berm?
So the berm would be within that. Usually it's done from all my research and talking to the state. I talked to the mining guy last year because we had somebody that wanted to develop a property. So did a lot of digging in that. The berm is usually done on the property line. That way everything stays within the property itself. So what they do is they'll scrape off the top of the soil and get down to the bedrock, and all that extra dirt that's on top goes to the outside of the property line. And then that forces the noise up instead of out. It also makes even more of a barrier for dust and debris and stuff like that. But my recommendation to go down to the same standards as M2 is mainly because I was checking all the properties that could be feasible in Charleston County with agriculture wise, and they'd be digging in an area the size of this room once all the setbacks got in place. So
I like keeping things uniform if we can. It doesn't look, I mean, we're not trying to keep them out. We're just trying to manage them. And if by keeping them uniform, I think that is more evidence that as to what we're doing. I didn't see it, but I can't remember. They would have to like use water and stuff to keep the dust down and that kind of stuff. I noticed others that do that.
they do have a lot of containment stuff that they have to do, like all the machinery. They'll build boxes around it with foam insulators on the inside to keep the noise down from like the crusher and stuff. They are required to monitor the noise at peak activity every single day. That's state rule. If they go over a certain decimal, then the state fines them. And it's not like little fines, it's substantial fines.
Okay.
So,
Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions, comments? Yeah, let's wait a minute till the emergency passes. Okay. Well, are we ready for the question? Do I have a motion to send this to the county commission for their approval? I can wait all night.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Sulfur to send this to the county commission for their approval. Oh,
Sorry, with the changes.
okay. We have a motion by Mr. Sulfur to send this resolution to the county commission with the changes noted. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nolan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. Okay, next item on our agenda is request for the extension of final plat approval of the Sulfur College Estate subdivision, 13.48 acres in the 7th Civil District. This is right down the road from us, across from what used to be the old Cunningham Kelly Lamb Steel building. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to this? Yes, sir. Come on up, please, to the microphone over here. Please give us your name so the secretary can get it down for the minutes. Yeah.
My name is Isaiah Perry and I own the property down in question. And the issue is that we need a little more time for our engineer to finish his work.
Okay. So they're asking for an extension for the final plat approval. So they have some more time to develop or sell this development.
Right.
Did I state that correctly, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, questions? Mr. Thomas?
So as far as the sewage getting to that property, has there been any discussion with the water department as far as a bond being set up or that work being done?
Yes, sir. My understanding was previously that the bond would have to be set, before the project would be started. And all we're needing now is just time for the engineer to finish and confirm those plans with the state.
You may have said this, and I apologize if I didn't hear it. Are you the owner of the property now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Other questions? Sam, do you have any comments on this? Okay. Are you aware of this? Do you have anything prepared? Okay, let's go to Jessica.
Yeah, there's just a few items to clear up on the plat once it comes back for final approval.
Okay. Okay. Once final plat approval, if this is approved tonight, you would maybe get with GNRC or Sam and find out what those items are.
Right.
Isn't that what we're doing now, is extending the final plat approval?
So with the final plan on this one, from my understanding, it was never brought in and actually registered. I have a plat, but it would fall on them to bring it in and registering the final plat. And that was never done.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Sounds to me like the wording on our agenda is not exactly correct. What the applicant is actually asking for is a extension of time in order to get his final plat ready, get it to meet all of the requirements, and to have time to look at all those things and get that ready. Am I right, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you caught that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but I know there's a time limit once a plat is been approved, the final, it's a year, right?
It's 1 year.
So is there a limit from the preliminary to the final then?
So
I think you understand what he's asking. Okay.
I don't like answering things quickly. Hold on.
That's fine. Because we've never had this come up where it was
I
this
agree.
far out
I agree.
for a final. And I've not ever seen anything or heard of any discussion where there was a limit on how long it took you to bring in your final. So at that point, there would be no reason to give an extension. He just needs to bring in his final for approval, correct?
That's a good question.
So we approve, I'll have to look back in it, but we approved this previously, correct? Yes, we approved it in February. So he had some things that he was supposed to bring in after the approval to get my nod, and they never came in. So he needs to get his engineering done to get my nod, and then he can go register it as a final plat. But we approved it if he got the changes done.
Okay. And you said that was in February.
It was in February.
So he's got till this coming February for his year to be up. Oh, okay, okay.
So, but to answer your question, I'm not exactly sure. We've never had that issue. But I would lean more onto the 1 year thing, the 1 year guideline. But I don't think it's addressed anywhere.
So then at this point, we need to decide what's being asked, because since he didn't bring in those things to get your nod, he didn't get the approval because we approved him having that final approval based on getting those things corrected and getting that information to you. So we can't extend what isn't in place.
Well, I don't think that's what he's asking. And I may be looking at this wrong. I think he's just asking for an extension of time. And I think if he's asking for an extension of time, then we would set the time limit. It could be 30 days, 60 days. Am I correct? I mean,
That's another thing that hasn't been done. Normally, when you give an extension, you give it for 1 year. But basically, I agree with you. Basically, we are re-agreeing that his final is done if he comes to me with the changes. So we're giving him another year to bring that to me.
okay.
And I guess the reason I'm wanting to have this discussion is since none of us can remember this ever happening before, it's kind of setting a precedent of how we'll conduct this in the future. So I just want to make sure that we're being fair to anyone who comes before us, down the road.
I agree.
So we
You're
do
right.
it the same way.
I would say that this is fair doing the 1 year. He would have, if he came and got my nod, he would have had a year. And then he would have had to come back today and ask for an extension anyways. So that is our limit, and I would say that is a fair limit on a year there. That gives us the safety net of if something has changed on that street that we don't like today, we could say no. But I think that 1 year would be a good guidance to stick with on both issues, even though this hasn't happened before.
Let's ask our planner.
Okay, Jessica?
So not having a lot of background on the plat in question, but the state law is if the preliminary plat had been approved and obtained the final permit for a preliminary plat, it would vest for 3 years. That's considering that if they had secured permits, gotten their construction plans drawn, and done site preparation. So the state allows for a 3-year vesting period for a preliminary plat.
What if all those haven't been? Because I've seen no infrastructure improvements or anything like that yet.
Well, to me, based off the conversation, it doesn't sound like a preliminary plat was approved by this.
So there was preliminary approved, the final was never officially approved.
Okay.
They approved it with the conditions, and the conditions haven't been met. But with what you mentioned, this could also fall within that because money's been invested.
But if the conditions have never been met, then it couldn't have been approved
Okay.
by this board.
Preliminary was approved, I remember that. Final was approved contingent upon changes that were mentioned that night or additions from Mary and those type things.
Okay.
And then, so what Sam's saying is that final was approved contingent upon those items being met, and they've never been met.
Okay, so it keeps getting tabled until the next.
Actually, it's the
meeting.
first time we've had
Oh.
it since then,
Okay. So the request is
for
tonight
another
is
extension.
for another extension of something that hasn't been approved. Okay.
But based on what you said, bringing that up, that's a good point on the state law for vesting.
I mean,
And
yes, the applicant or the property owner has 3 years on the preliminary plat. So technically, they would not need to ask for another year extension if they're still within the 3 years. But that's assuming that they have started to move dirt full.
which they
permit.
can't until they get their final.
They can spend, let's see.
The way I understand it is if money vested, which would be the site plan, his site, his infrastructure, like his engineering. Once they start into the preliminary process of the engineering, doesn't that count as the vesting?
So the way that MTS defines it, the development plan project, the vesting period applicable to a development plan is 3 years, beginning on the date of approval of the preliminary development plan, provided the applicant obtains final development plan approval secures permits, and commences site preparation within the 3-year vesting period.
But technically he isn't gained final plat approval.
But he's been approved for his preliminary.
She said that he has to achieve within 3 years.
Mhm.
So at this point, there's nothing for us to do. He's still within the 3-year window and he's still good to go.
That's correct with the vesting. We can do that. We could strike it and he's good for until he hits his 3-year limit.
All right. See, it's a good thing you came. All right. So from what it sounds like, Mayor, you have any comments on this since this is something new? for
I've got
us?
some questions because I brought up the subdivision regulation and it says effective period of preliminary approval. So I got a few questions.
Sure,
Number
go ahead.
one, it did receive preliminary approval. Am I correct? Because it says approval preliminary plat shall be effective for a period of 12 months. And it says at the end of that 12 months, it says prior to expiration of preliminary approval and upon proper request by the developer, the approval may be extended 1 additional year if the commission deems to be such to be advisable based on progress made in developing subdivision. So if it's already received preliminary approval, hasn't received final approval, it says you can extend it at the request, which they're doing. And my second question is if Jessica can repeat what she said because I couldn't hear her. So if you get a little bit closer to the microphone.
Sure. So the question about the subdivision regs and the 1-year vesting period, and I've seen this in other communities, is the state has amended the TCA to allow for a longer vesting period, which supersedes local control. So the development plan project, per as interpreted by MTAS, is the development plan project. The vesting period applicable to a development plan is 3 years, beginning on the date of approval of the preliminary development plan, provided the applicant obtains final development plan approval, secures permits, and commences site preparation within the 3-year vesting period.
And that does specifically in the statute say it supersedes local ordinances.
I can get you the TCA that does that, yeah, but the state law is gonna supersede local ordinances.
So it seems to me if it supersedes what we got here, he's well within the 3-year period.
Sounds like we might need to update our regulations.
The,
That's what I'm saying. So we might need to update ours
Well-
to match the state. Well, I personally don't want ours to read differently than what state law is. When it's just a matter of just, changing it. Are we clear? Okay. Well, actually, there is nothing to act on because he's still within his 3 years. So there's really no reason for him to have a request. So what you really need to do is just withdraw your request.
All right, thank you.
Can you state it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to withdraw my request for the extension.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Moving on. Next item under old business is final plat approval for a 6-lot subdivision on 5.36 acres by Lewis Cass Beasley III on Highway 10. So anyone, Mr. Carmen? Just nepotism, I guess, but I just want to say I am very glad to see Mr. Carmen here tonight.
We do have, actually, we have the 5 smaller lots, which is 6 lots. 5 smaller lots. We've already obtained signature for Webster for 5 lots. I suppose
Have you seen this? Let's have you seen it?
We do have a fire hydrant shown on the plat. That will be.
Mr. Carmen, could you go to the podium and speak into the microphone, please?
Good, I can do that. And it's live and working. We do have a fire hydrant shown on the plat, I think is what that's a request of the board. And I haven't had anything to do with this development. I'm the first time to be in on it, but that will be taken care of before we ask for Mr. McFarland's signature on the thing, okay?
Let's give our people just a second to look over that, especially Jessica. Again, I'll just state that I'm glad to see that Jim sent the A-team here tonight.
I like it more when Jim is here rather than me being here.
All right, while others are looking, do any members have questions for Mr. Carmen? While Jessica and Sam look, while others look over it. Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Carroll, on the lot 3, where it has the easement area for septic purposes for benefit of the remaining Beasley property. So is that the lot 6 doesn't perk, and so they're having to use that section for?
Well, lot 6 had some favorable soils, but we're trying to embellish those soils. Yes, sir, that's what that's for.
Okay.
Other questions from commission members? Sam?
I'm going to pass to Jessica. She's got some notes that she made on this one.
Okay.
But the fire hydrant is listed, which it wasn't listed before. It's listed now. It's right there at the driveway entrance for the lot 6 in the back. So if you look, there's a little bitty dot on the map. That will be your fire hydrant. The flood zone's marked, zone A over there at lot 1, 2, and 3, which was requested last time. But Jessica's got a few more notes on this one.
Jessica?
Thanks, Chairman. Let me scoot
You can
closer
you can bend that mic down. It probably might be easier.
for the short person. All right, so let's see. The items that appear to need to still be addressed are the width and diameter of the driveway culverts that will support these slots.
The driveway culverts,
Yes, sir.
yes, they've already been approved by the state,
Okay,
and have already been installed. They're in place.
okay. Is there a reason why they were not identified on the plat?
They weren't existing before.
Okay.
They are now.
The aerials show that there is an existing structure on this lot, on the parcels in question. Will that?
Yes, ma'am. No, there's no structures on this property at all now.
Okay, so it's been removed?
It's been removed.
So in the past week, the structures are gone
Okay,
and the culverts are installed. I can confirm both of those.
okay.
Yes.
Comment G, the locations for soil errors, I do see that that has been added to the plat, the soil for the septic
Yes, the
system.
soils have been added, yes.
And then the other item is a monument in the right of way to the nearest prominent public way in the intersection. Distance and bearing, and I'm still looking for that, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your,
So comment H in the staff report is include a distance and bearing shall be provided which will link a point on the boundary of the subdivision to a monument in the right of way of the nearest prominent public way intersection.
okay. Well, the nearest public way intersection would be old 31E forking off of whole 31, old Highway 10 forking off Highway 10. We can add that. We would hate to have to come back for that, Mr. Sam. That will be added to a file, okay? And we can show that intersection point to that. I'm sorry, I don't have the plat in front of me, so I can't even see if it's on there or not. But
You're fine. Yeah, I see the distance to the nearest fire hydrant, but not to the nearest public intersection.
Okay, we can certainly add that. That's not a big deal. Okay,
Okay. The last remaining item is the minimum building setback line for lot 1 from the flood zone A.
the minimum setback lines are shown.
But off of the,
I believe on that setback, we actually allowed them to use the floodplain as the setback on the first, on the lot 1.
That would be correct. That was a discussion and Jim was told to follow the floodplain line.
Okay,
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anything else, Jessica?
That's it. So the last remaining item would be the distance and bearing to the public way for y'all.
And we can, as usual, we can take care of that in a motion, as should a motion come. Questions for Mr. Carmen, Jessica, or Sam?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this with that information being added. As long as Sam can verify that and just move forward with it.
Motion by Mr. Thomas to approve final plat approval for this project contingent upon the notes that GNRC has provided being met. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Noller. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously.
thank you so much.
You want these back, Carol? You want these back? Okay, okay. All right, now we're going to move into our new business. First item under new business is a request by Scotty Enoch for rezoning of 1.29 acres on West Main Street from R2 to R3 for multiple units. This is located in the 7th Civil District. Anyone, is Mr. Enoch or anyone representing him here tonight?
I'm here.
Okay. State your name,
I'm
sir, please, and then tell us.
Scotty.
What you- Okay.
I'm Scotty Enoch.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm just wanting to have it changed from R2 to R3. As the code states now, I believe you can build maybe one duplex per lot. And I'd like to have it changed, maybe if a fit, after I clean it up, if I could build multiple.
How many units do you think you are plan on putting on there?
Well, it's hard to tell
Okay.
without clearing the lot off.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay, so Mr. Enoch is asking for us to send this to the county commission for rezoning. Sam, do you have any comments on this project?
I believe all y'all should know which lot this is. Any improvement to the lot will improve the lot. He's gonna have some issues with the lot itself. So I'm not too concerned about a whole lot going on there, because if you know, it's a pretty steep incline. There's some buildable area down near the street, and then it goes pretty steep up that hill on the other side. So he might be able to get some at the top. But then again, y'all need to keep in mind, if you rezone this to R3 and he decides to do something different, which I don't see how he could without doing blasting and drilling and all that stuff, but you are approving R3. So, and that includes apartments, hotels, stuff like that. Even though that's not his intent, R3 is R3. So.
Jessica, do you have any comments on this project?
Excuse me, so the properties have access to water on and sewer from West Main Street and Stotts Avenue. There is no adjacent R3 zoning in this area, but however, the combined lots are greater than 1 acre. And the rezoning is applied to more than one lot, which would avoid the request being categorized as a spot zone.
Okay.
Where's the nearest R3? Is R3 close, right? Is it down the
No.
street? We just
There's-
approved.
No,
Front Street?
it's a couple of lots down on the If you're facing the lot, it's a couple lots down on the left side of the road. But yes, it's not touching, it's across the street further
Right,
down. But yes, there is one down there.
It's in the area, I guess you could say.
So,
And there's another one that's coming up that's behind Morrison Street. I mean, it's relatively close, line of sight.
yes, but it's still not
Yeah.
touching.
Yeah.
So. But to be honest with you, all those lots up there probably should be R3. None of them meet current setbacks. So they're too small. But that's neither here nor there. This lot, I believe on Scott Avenue, he might be able to get a few duplexes if he does go R3 on that side. And then the middle is going to be very hard for him to use. So maybe one or two on West Main, maybe. All this will have to be determined by a surveyor.
Other questions? Of course, as Sam said, and I've been preaching about for the last 2 or 3 months, the importance of zoning. And once something is rezoned, no questions? Do I have a motion? Mr. Swafford, you want to hear from somebody? Oh, Mayor, would you like to comment on this? Okay.
I would just reiterate what Mr. Edwards said. Just keep in mind, when you do R3, as we've seen on some other properties, they can open it up to anything that may not be intended at this time. So just keep that in mind when you make these decisions. That's really all the input I have. I can't say I can't say right now, I don't know much about it. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't able to read the packet for tonight, so I can't tell you whether it's a good idea or bad idea. I just think, like I said, we've had it come up in several things, especially here lately, that it was zoned, or it was going to be zoned with a thought it was going to be one type of project. That didn't happen. Then years later, it came out to be something else and neighbors were not happy. So I just think we need to keep that in mind when we make these decisions.
And also keep in mind that we do not rezone anything. We recommend to the county commission, they're the only body in the county that can rezone property. And it doesn't matter if it's R3, it could be R2, R1, you know, whatever fits according to our regulations in that zone.
If it helps, I will say that this lot is minimum risk because of the topography of it. And even if something did develop out of it, it's got 2 roads on either side. So it wouldn't be a horrible fit. It has two means of access to whatever does go there.
I have to agree with Sam, and his first statement was whatever Mr. Enoch does would probably be an improvement, in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't count for anything. Do I have a motion, one way or the other?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Swafford to approve Mr. Enoch's request. Do I have a second? Now, what his motion is to send this to the county commission with an approval for rezoning. Am I correct, Mr. Swafford?
That's correct.
Recommendation, I'm sorry. Do I have a second? Have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Ms. Pruitt seconded. If you, any opposed, please say no. Okay, we have 6 yes and 1 no. Oh, I'm sorry, 7. I missed Mary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yes, 1 no. It does pass. Thank you, Mr. Enoch.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is request by Beach One Properties for the rezoning of 5.01 acres on Halltown Road from R2/I1 to R3 for multi-use in the 4th district. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Randy Beach Jr.
Been a long time, Randy.
Yes, sir. Pretty much the same thing as Mr. Enoch, just for future purpose. for profitability. I mean, not exactly sure the project.
So you don't have a current project in mind?
No,
This is more of a request to rezone for something for future development?
profitability, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Sam?
So just for reference, I believe y'all have an image in the y'all's packets. But this is right up from Stan Hall's property. It's one lot up. And it extends out to the rear of that I-1 property, which is the truck business. So again, if with this rezoning, the rear of this lot is technically I-1, the front of this lot's R2. So if y'all rezone this tonight, the entire lot will become R3, which apartments, hotels, duplexes, multifamily is what you're rezoning to.
And y'all know where it is, right close to Mr. Hall's property, where all those duplexes are down through there. So many from Core Civic lived out there when they first built the prison. They called it CCA Village when I was first working out there. Questions for Sam? Jessica? No?
Oh, are you asking me if I have a question?
No, I'm sorry. Your comments, please.
So again, as Sam said, the current zoning on the parcel in question is R2 and I-1 with a requested change to just R3. The parcel does have a special flood hazard very minimally at the rear of the lot. The properties do have access to water and sewer off of Halltown Road. There is not an adjacent R3, but there is a R3 one parcel over to the south, I guess. And this is not, the lot does not appear to be constrained by floodplain or steep slopes, so.
Okay. Any members have any questions for Jessica? Okay, discussion? Questions? Okay. So Mr. Beach is asking for a favorable recommendation to the county court to rezone this property from R2/I1 to R3 for future multi-use development. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we send this to the county court with a favorable recommendation.
Motion by Ms. Keesley. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Pruitt. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. It is, what was that other number, 7-1? Same thing. All right, next on our agenda is a request by Mr. Lewis Beasley for the rezoning of 8.31 acres on Thoroughbred Lane from A1 R1 to R1 for development. Mr. Beasley or Mr. Carmen?
Really, it's not confused by a little bit. There is some floodline, some flood property out there. Top down, of course, point.
It's gone from 8 acres to 2-point-something acres. Is that what you're saying?
3 lots. All it is from 3 lots. Just a little bit more to the out there, so that down anywhere close to that flood zone, the distance was outside of the flood.
Okay. You want this?
Over here where I can talk. Like to put 3 lots there, and I think it would be a nice addition to Thoroughbred. Mr. Beasley's not going to anyway impact the value of Thoroughbred out there. Yeah, these would be nice homes.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Carmen before we go to Sam? Okay, Sam?
So he is asking for just 3 lots. In my personal opinion, from my office, I think there was an error originally when the rezoning for this subdivision was put through, because the city line extended out afterwards and that zoning didn't follow. So all of the lots after you make this turn in Thoroughbred are technically in agriculture at the moment, and they all should be R1. So I'm all for fixing this portion, and then hopefully the rest of the neighbors will come in and fix the rest of it.
Yeah, I agree with Sam. It's just kind of like we're bringing this property up to the zoning of the rest of Thoroughbred. This is the way it looks to me. Jessica, you have some comments?
So this is comments for the whole 8.31
Okay.
lot. So the majority of the lot is within a flood zone, and any potential development could create a stormwater management issue for surrounding properties. So in accordance with section 5.085 of the Hartsville zoning ordinance, any development within a flood zone will be required to meet the outline flood reduction, hazard reduction standards. The property does have access to water on Thoroughbred Lane. The property is already partially zoned R1, and several adjoining properties are zoned R1. So it's noted for being suitable for areas where development at a suburban district density is not appropriate or feasible. Development in this zoning district is intended to be low density residential, characterized by an open appearance, which seems consistent with the character of the area.
Questions for Ms. Jessica from any members? Okay, discussion? Questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Motion by Mr. Thomas to send this to the county commission with a favorable opinion from the planning commission. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thomas. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. Do you need them all back, Carol? Or? Okay. First one. Oh, who made the motion? Mr. Thomas made the motion, and Thomas seconded. Okay. Moving on. Next, we have a request by Grace Baptist Church for the rezoning of 5.62 acres on Mcmurray Boulevard from C2 to R3 for residential development. Mr. Carmen is here. Are you representing Grace Baptist?
I'm here to acknowledge that Mr. Russell Barnett also purchased and details that I've been.
Well, I mean, for this purpose, only the property owner can request a rezoning. And so as representative of Grace Baptist, you're saying Grace Baptist would like to rezone this property. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir, we would.
Okay. Okay.
But now there's a portion of it that has been discussed leading to C2, which is the majority of the road frontage. And do you have an exhibit for that, Mr. Barnett? Y'all have those exhibits, I assume?
They were emailed to us. Would anybody like to see, do you have any other copies with you, sir? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, we've got that. Thank you. Okay.
I don't even have a copy of that.
So the C2 portion is the area up here. That's the part of the development. As you all know, we're being judicious in protecting our commercial property along the Highway 25 corridor. If we have commercial property, that's definitely where it's going to be. And so this gentleman has agreed to adhere to that with Sam. And then you see what the rest of that is. Basically, if you want to Google it sometime or anything, it's what's known as a cluster home development. But again, once we rezone, if the county commission decides to rezone this property, it's whatever the owner of the property decides to do within those regulations.
So that you might know, as the owner of the property or representing the owners of the property, it will be done just exactly like this or nicer, or it will not be done.
Okay. I appreciate that, Mr. Carmen. Even though we all know that once you sell it, it's out of your hands.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, there's a thing called restrictions that you can place
There you
inside
go.
of a document.
Very good point.
Yes, sir.
Very good point. All right, Sam.
I've been talking about this project for a while now with Mr. Barnett, and I think it's an awesome concept idea. I think it's a really neat thing that we could bring into Trousdale. He's provided pictures of what he's looking at trying to do. It's going to be more of a cottage-like feel. So I don't know if anybody's been to Gatlinburg. I've been there recently, and that's similar to what he's trying to do on this. I think it is a really neat project, and I particularly would like to see it happen, and see how it goes from there. But the zoning's in y'all's ballpark for decision.
Jessica, do you have any comments?
Only that, I guess, to point out that the rezoning request is for the whole property to go from C2 to R3. The property in question does not appear to be constrained by floodplain or steep slopes. The staff does have some concerns about potential development, creating additional connections on an arterial route, but this could be reviewed at the plating or development phase of the property. There are adjacent properties zoned R3, and the proposed zoning is greater than 1 acre and therefore would not be considered spot zoning.
Just for the commission, some of y'all might not have been on, but years ago, the owner of Blankenship Body Shop was thinking of building an apartment complex right across from his body shop. So, and I think that would adjoin this property. So R3 zoning already exists as a neighbor to that. If I'm Mr. Blankenship, to my knowledge, has never come in and requested a change to that zoning. He's never done anything with it either, but I mean, it is zoned R3. I would, like in my 30 some odd years on the planning commission, never had a developer asked to meet with me beforehand, and Mr. Barnett met with me and Mr. Noller last Thursday, and we went over this, and I kind of like Sam, if it's built to the way that Mr. Barnett has explained it and has it drawn, it would be one of the nicest developments ever built in Trousdale County. So, Sam?
I will add, I've been working with Mr. Barnett on this for a while, and for the amount of money that he has put into it to get y'all really good examples of what he wants, and the preliminaries are pretty much done already. If contingent upon approval of zoning, he's already put the money in. So this is what he's vested in trying to do. I can tell you he's got the money invested in it. So I'm 100% confident he's gonna do it. But I would like to ask Mr. Barnett's permission to adjust the rezoning request to where it says R3C2. That way we can guarantee that that front portion that's listed on the map stays C2.
Was that your
We'll be
question?
glad to furnish a legal description of the portion that's being rezoned to R3. I don't have it available now. If you'd like to have it available tomorrow, or if you'd like to have it before the county court looks at it, whatever you'd like to do, we'll be glad to furnish a legal description on that.
If you can have that to me by Wednesday, it would be nice.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that can be done. I'm pretty sure that can be done.
Okay. Yes, sir.
That being said, I'd like to make a motion to send this with a favorable, recommendation, as long as we have the C2 marked out versus the R3.
Okay.
Just
Have
like,
it differentiated.
yes, that way we are locked in and we still have the commercial there on the highway.
I think that's a very good point. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One question before. I
Yes, sir.
vote. So this is directly across the street from the property that's just now starting construction,
I think it's
correct?
right
Yes.
across the driveway from that little Gene has started.
And it shows two entrances on the plan, on the new plans. I can't remember the other plans. It has two as well?
Little Gene's?
Yes.
Yes,
The ones
it has
across the
two.
street? It has two as well. Okay.
The
Little-
other plan had one entrance.
Little Gene's.
It had one.
Little Jeans has the one road going in, which is,
Which is on the west side of the property?
if you're looking at the image, it'll be on the west side. Yes, that's provided. The second entrance that they've got there now is
Construction,
not to ruin the other entrance.
just construction.
It's just construction entrance.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thanks. I just wanted to clarify that.
I thought when we approved that development, we approved that with two entrances.
So there was two entrances already technically there. One of the entrances is for the C2 portion that's on the front, but it doesn't actually go into the subdivision.
Okay. More questions? Any more questions, guys? Very good questions. Okay. Do I have a motion? Oh, we done motion to say. Usually we discuss before. Y'all threw me off tonight. All right. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say no. This does go to the county commission with a favorable recommendation. And next on our agenda is a request by Robert Powers for rezoning 0.36 acres at 118 Morrison Street from R2 to R3. Mr. Powers or anyone representing, there you go, Mr. Powers. I didn't see you there. Yes.
This was a recommendation by Sam, so I could do what was originally intended when I decided to buy the lot. I own property on Morrison Street, and this property, if you go up Green Top, the tower's right in front of you. When you hit Morrison Street, it's the lot directly to the right of the tower. I had originally intended to split that lot in half and build two single-family dwellings on that lot. And I discovered, I guess, after I got the contract on it and surveying the whole 9 yards, that I had to have 60 feet of frontage instead of 50 feet of frontage. And so it wasn't going to look right. You'd have 60-40 on one side and then 60-40 in the back on the other side, and to get two houses on that lot. And so I said, what can I do, Sam? And he said, well, we can rezone it to R3 so you can do that. And I said, okay, so we'll do that. And so it was Sam's recommendation to rezone it to R3, and that's why I'm here.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Powers? Okay. Sam?
So with this particular lot, to do any kind of townhome type construction, which is what we're intending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be basically two townhomes
Uh-huh.
on this lot. The only way to get this feasible is to rezone to R3. But again, like was mentioned before, take into account the roads and what you're approving. R3 can make a higher density in that area for that lot. And Morrison Street is pretty steep. So, but this will allow him to put two townhomes right there.
Okay. Questions for Sam?
What's the lot size? I can't see it anywhere.
0.36
Okay.
is what's on our agenda. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, so to make the two townhomes work, it'd be basically the same thing we've done in the larger subdivisions. It'll be a zero lot line with a master deed is what they'll be doing for these two homes. A zero lot line with a master deed, so that it's community owned, communal property around it, but they own the footprint of the house itself. And usually inside the deed, it states that they have so many parking places and stuff like that per unit.
Okay.
So then they'll have a shared roof. Is that what you're saying?
No, kind of. Normally with your townhomes, you don't actually run the same ridge line. You try to offset them. But yes, they'll be touching. So, but it could still be a townhome, even if it was separated by like an alleyway. Because there's not enough setback in there to make it anything other than a townhome. So it's just, they'll have 0 lot lines. That alleyway would be shared. It'd still be a 0 lot line with a master deed.
I didn't know with less than an acre of property, the way the lot's done up, if there'd be enough room to have the 2 buildings actually separated into 2 lots.
I don't believe so. And I believe the intent's to do a townhome connected.
Yeah, I want to do 2 basically tall skinnies. It's been a desire of mine to try to help improve areas when I can. And this lot's been available for a long time. I've driven by it several times and it came available and I thought I'd build a couple of houses on it if I could. And then we had to get into a little bit of a understanding issue, trying to figure out whether I could do it with a 50-foot lot or 60-foot lot. And then he said R3 would work. And I said, well, let's do R3 then. And so I'm just trying to improve the area a little bit, trying to help it up there. It's been a vacant lot there for a long time.
And back to what I said before, most of those lots up there are too small to do anything with it now with the zoning that they are. Based on existing structures, you could build from the footer of the original house up, but you can never go out. So what's there is there, it's done. I will work with some people occasionally if they're on the line. I will let them scoot over some and get them off the line, and it fixes a nasty situation. But like I said before, this area up there, the lots are just too small. Most, if not all of them, need to be R3. But then again, the roads also need work up there. So.
Okay. Let's go to Jessica for her comments.
So again, the property contains 0.36 acres or roughly 15,600 square feet. The permitted density for R3 zoning would allow for 2 single-family lots, 1 duplex lot, or 4 multifamily units. The property does not appear to be constrained by floodplain or steep slopes, and it has access to water on Morrison Street. There are no adjacent properties zoned R3 or any other R3 zoning in this area. A conservative definition of spot zoning is any rezoning request that is less than 1 acre, benefits only 1 parcel, and is not adjacent to any similar zoning. While R3 high density residential and R2 medium density residential share several permitted uses, if the property is developed in a way that causes detriment to the surrounding properties, the approval of the rezoning could be considered spot zoning.
Any questions for Jessica? Okay, discussion? Motion?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The map shows a gap. Is that an easement to something?
That's where the trash trucks used to be allowed to go in and out. It's an alleyway that's owned by the county.
Okay. I'm about
So
to count.
that's what that is.
I'd like to make a motion for a favorable recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Thomas for a favorable recommendation from R2 to R3. Do I have a second? I'm sorry, second by Mr. Thomas. Am I right?
I think Mary Ann beat it too, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I want to give Ms. Pruitt her due. That's what happens when you get old, Carol. You can't keep up with things. Okay, so we have a motion to send this to the county commission with a favorable recommendation. And a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass. Anything else to come before the planning commission this evening?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
After last month's meeting, as we've been talking about doing the amendments for the quarry on some of our zoning, I got some questions, oddly enough, about did we have any of those same regulations or constraints on the zoning for adult entertainment in Trousdale County? And looking back through everything, could not find any. I did find a section where we could have joined into legislation with the state, which would have allowed us to take on, the county would have just taken on their regulations, but I can't find anything. Rita's looked it up, can't find anything where the county commission actually took that on, and was wondering if that's not something we need to start looking into to just to shore that part of our zoning up also.
Is that one of those things that, since the state has it, that we would have to abide by it anyway? It's not?
No, I could look into adopting the state's policy, or at least bringing it forward to y'all to look at and see if y'all want to adopt it. But from my understanding, it was already brought forward once.
Many, many years ago, we discussed this. It's been so long, I honestly can't remember what happened. But I do know that, and it's been decades.
Well, I know my first year on, Rick Gregory gave us our part of our continuing education, and at that time said that we didn't have anything in place, and therefore, since there was no zoning regulation for it, it could go wherever it wanted to.
Probably we probably discussed it and probably thought we did something about it, but it never got put into the official regulations. So
From my understanding, it left the planning commission and got stalled.
by the county court,
Yeah,
they wouldn't do nothing like that.
so.
That's my joke. That's my joke for the night. Mhm. Mhm. That's right. Yeah. My suggestion would be for staff to look into that, and we should at least adhere to what the state has on that, and maybe prepare a resolution. I would think most members of the current county commission are like me and don't even remember it. And I don't even know how many mayors ago it was, but I know our current mayor wasn't in office. So why don't we, Sam, look into that and bring something back? Mr. Mayor, do you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, if we're looking into this, we may also look at that, there's other things that would have to go along with this. Like, I think we'd have to establish an adult-oriented establishment board. At least that's what the CTAS page I'm reading says. So there's other things we would have to go along with that. Yeah, I think it's a 5-member board that they're appointed with by the mayor, and I would assume by approval of the county commission. But so there's other things we would look that would need to go along with that at the same time.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've been talking for months now about managing rock quarries. I think it would be prudent to manage what is adult entertainment in the same vein, and whether we have to have a board or not, that's just another function our county court can handle.
And looking into it, that's kind of why I was proposing that we look into it the same way we did the quarry situation, because if the county does it in that manner, I don't think we're required to have the board. But if we sign on to the states the way they have it,
Okay.
then we have to follow the state's guidelines on that.
So you're saying, let's not say no, let's just limit it.
Just make a place for it. That way.
I've got a good place for it. Go up Highway 10, about 6 miles, 7, right over into the edge of Macon County. That's right. No, I think we do need to manage it. I think that's very appropriate. And if we can, Mayor, that's something you may want to think about from an administrative standpoint. Would it be something that you think you would rather do where the commission and you itself can handle it, or would you rather have a board? That's something you and Sam can talk about, and y'all can bring, Sam can bring something back to us after y'all have had time to look into it and discuss it.
Yeah, and I'll get with the county attorney on it, because my initial thought is you can't outright do things that make it impossible to come.
Right, right,
But you got to create a structure,
right.
and that's why I
That's
was-
what he,
and
that's
that's
what
why I
David
mentioned
said.
the board, because there's a registration. I mean, there's different things you can do until I look further into it to see which way. I mean, doing the board might be a good idea, might be a horrible idea. Until I
Right.
look into it, I don't know.
That's why I thought y'all might think about it and maybe bring us something back at the June meeting.
So I'll get looking on that and I'll get with Mayor on it. But keep in mind, the mayor's got on his schedule to revisit our ordinances anyways. So hopefully we'll be taking and making them a metro ordinance instead of a city and county ordinance. And a lot of things got to be readdressed at that point. There's just, as you can tell, we're finding serious loopholes that we need to fit now, we need to get fixed now.
Maybe.
So.
Mhm. Could you tell me what the second Monday in June, what that date would be? Thirteenth, okay. I'll be back, okay. I was going on a trip, I just wanted to make sure I'd be back. I don't know, who is our vice chairman? Mr. Noller, if I'm not back, Mr. Noller. I don't know, but we're, well, I mean, that's why I brought it up tonight. I don't really think I'll be back, but Linda and I are going to be gone for 2 weeks there on one of the trials to Wilson Bank and Trust trips. And I mean, we could always, as long as we make a decision we could postpone it another week as long as we advertise it well enough. I'm not saying do that. You could handle this very well, but what would y'all rather do?
If we postpone it a week, that runs into the commission's work session and
Okay.
budget and.
I say, Mr. Noller, go full speed ahead. Yes. Just didn't want Mr. Noller to fall out over there before. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Swafford. Do I have a second? We are adjourned.